Have you ever found yourself wondering, what is normal, really? Well, you're not alone. The concept of normality is something that has puzzled philosophers, psychologists, and the average Joe and Jane for centuries. It's a relative term, varying across different cultures, societies, and individuals. What's normal in one corner of the world could be considered outlandish in another. Normality is based on statistical averages of behaviors, thoughts, and emotions in a given group or society. For instance, in a society where the average person wakes up at dawn, sleeping until noon might be seen as abnormal. But are these societal norms truly a measure of normality? That's debatable. The subjective nature of what is considered normal is worth noting. What's normal for the spider is chaos for the fly, as the saying goes. So normal is essentially a construct of societal expectations. But then, what about our brains? What's considered normal there? Enter neurotypicality, a term that might not be as familiar as normal, but is equally significant. Neurotypicality is a concept that's used to describe individuals whose brain development and functioning align with what is generally considered normal within society. It's a term that originated in the autism community as a way of referencing non-autistic individuals. This idea of neurotypicality is based on a range of factors including cognitive abilities, emotional responses, and behavioral patterns. It is not about being superior or better than anyone else. It is simply a term used to describe a certain type of brain functioning that aligns with societal norms and expectations. Now, this concept of neurotypicality is often contrasted with another term, neurodiversity. Neurodiversity is a perspective that respects and acknowledges the wide range of differences in human brain function. It's a celebration of the fact that our brains are as unique as our fingerprints. It encourages us to see these differences not as deficits or disorders, but as natural and valuable variations of the human genome. So if neurotypicality is about brains that function within the normal range, where does that leave those who fall outside of this range? Are they abnormal? Malfunctioning? Well, not exactly. You see, the reality is that normal is a spectrum, a broad and diverse range of experiences. And it's important to note that being different doesn't automatically mean being deficient. For instance, someone with dyslexia might struggle with reading and writing, which are skills highly valued in our society. But they may also have exceptional visual spatial skills, allowing them to excel in fields such as architecture or graphic design. So while their brain might function differently, it doesn't necessarily function worse. In fact, many of the world's greatest innovators, artists, and thinkers have brains that function differently than the neurotypical norm. Their unique perspectives and abilities have contributed immensely to our society and culture. So neurotypicality is about brains that function within the normal range. But does that mean that being different is bad? Now consider this. Not all behaviors, emotions, or cognitions that deviate from the norm are harmful or maladaptive. Let's dive into this a bit, shall we? Imagine a spectrum. On one end, we have adaptive behaviors, thoughts, and emotions. These are the ones that enable us to adjust to new situations, solve problems, and cope with stress. They're the tools in our mental toolbox that help us navigate the world around us. For instance, let's say you're faced with a challenging task at work. An adaptive response might be to break the task down into manageable chunks, or to seek advice from a colleague. You're adapting to the situation, finding ways to make it manageable. Now, on the other end of the spectrum, we have maladaptive behaviors, thoughts, and emotions. These are the ones that, instead of helping us deal with life's challenges, actually create more problems for us. They're like the rusty, broken tools in our mental toolbox. They might have served a purpose at some point, but now they're more of a hindrance than a help. Continuing with our work scenario, a maladaptive response to that challenging task might be to avoid it altogether, or to engage in negative self-talk that undermines your confidence. Instead of helping you tackle the problem, these responses just make it bigger. But here's the key point. Just because a behavior, thought, or emotion deviates from what's considered normal, doesn't automatically make it maladaptive. Sometimes, these variations can lead to unique abilities or perspectives. Think about some of the world's greatest artists, scientists, and thinkers. Many of them were seen as different, but their differences were also their strengths. So it's not just about being normal or different. It's about whether those differences help us or hinder us. It's about recognizing and nurturing the adaptive behaviors, thoughts and emotions, and finding ways to manage or transform the maladaptive ones. Because ultimately, it's our differences that make us who we are. So, if being different isn't necessarily bad, why is there so much emphasis on being normal? Well, let's look at it from a different perspective. Picture a rainbow. It's a band of 7 different colors, each with its unique hue, but together, they form a beautiful spectacle. This is the concept of neurodiversity. It promotes the acceptance of all kinds of brain functions and structures, just like the colors of the rainbow. The term neurodiversity was coined by the autism community in the late 90s. It was a revolutionary idea, challenging the notion that there is a normal or right way to think or behave. It's a perspective that sees neurological differences not as problems to be fixed, but as variations to be understood and accepted. Neurodiversity is about accepting that we all think and behave differently. Some of us might have brains that are wired to be more imaginative, while others might be more methodical. Some might have a knack for understanding people, while others might find solace in numbers and patterns. And that's okay. It's more than okay. It's beautiful. The neurodiversity movement is not about disregarding the struggles that come with neurological differences. It's not about romanticizing conditions like autism, ADHD, or dyslexia. It's about recognizing that these conditions are a part of human diversity. It's about understanding that these individuals are not broken or less than. They are simply different. And this difference is not something to be feared or pitied. It's something to be embraced. Just like we celebrate cultural diversity, we should also celebrate neurodiversity. It's about time we shift our focus from trying to normalize individuals to understanding and accepting them as they are. In the end, the concept of normal is relative, and neurodiversity encourages us to embrace and celebrate our unique brains. After all, it's our differences that make us human.